Welcome to the Ed Leaders Edge podcast, where we interview innovators and thought leaders in the field of education who are helping students thrive. I'm your host, Ed Madison. I'm a professor and researcher at the University of Oregon, an educational consultant, and serve as executive director of the Journalistic Learning Initiative, a nonprofit organization that empowers elementary, middle, and high school students to discover their voice, improve academic outcomes, and become self-directed learners through project-based storytelling. Welcome to our program.
Well, welcome back to the podcast. Joining us today is Bill Runey, who's superintendent of the Dighton Rehoboth Regional Schools in North Dighton, Massachusetts. He's been a principal, a classroom teacher, and also a coach. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well, Ed. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, just trying to do a little bit of homework, and I know that you implemented something within your district called the Portrait of a Graduate. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so my team and I have been here for a little over 2 years, and we are a regional district in Massachusetts. So 2 rural towns merged their resources together many years ago to form our great district. And when we arrived, it was shortly after the pandemic had ended, and we were lacking some structure and some vision. And so what we decided to do was rally our community, including our staff members, around what we wanted our graduates to look like when they came out of our high school. And so we did a pre-K through 12 plus initiative where we developed the Portrait of a Graduate.
And can you tell me a little bit more about what is the portrait of a what's sort of that framework looks like?
Yes, I mean it's our North Star. It's what we can tie all of our teaching and learning back to, and so we sought input from students at all levels, staff at all levels, family members, community members, and so the major highlights of it include students who are collaborators, students who are future ready, students who are great communicators. So the things that we could implement really in all of our schools, from elementary, middle, up through our high school, that could be something that could be tied into all of our instruction.
Mm-hmm. Post-COVID, there's been a lot of concern about learning loss, and particularly for some of the younger kids who have come to school and may have missed some of those social cues and things that we sort of take for granted about raising your hand and how we engage with one another. And I'm curious, did that factor into this, and also what you're observing with your younger students?
Absolutely. One of the other tenets of the Portrait of a Graduate is self and socially aware. And, you hit the nail on the head that, when students were doing the best they could to learn from a screen, a lot of those things certainly went out the window, and especially for our students that were in their formative years. And so, we've got a fantastic staff here in Dighton Rehoboth, and they're very patient, especially with that group of students who are now, 4 years beyond the start of the pandemic. And we're seeing progress. I mean, obviously, some of our students need more supports, and we're continuously trying to provide those supports for them. And, through the Portrait of a Graduate process and through our strategic planning process, we've engaged more families than what had been engaged before. And I think that partnership allows us that flexibility to have it reinforced not only in the schools, but also in our families.
Mm-hmm. You referenced briefly workforce readiness. I know there's also concern about whether or not this generation of students coming out of COVID are going to be adversely thought of by potential employers, that maybe school wasn't as rigorous as it was for students prior to that, or and that they'll maybe have a black mark next to their ages. Any thoughts about that, and how do we mitigate?
We haven't really seen that so far, Ed, but what I will say is that I think part of that is due to the fact that we have a great working relationship with a lot of the colleges and universities that our high school students are looking for, as well as some of the other post-secondary options. We have a strong vocational component to our high school. We have 7 career and technical education programs. And, for instance, a couple of weeks ago, we had our annual advisory dinner where the CTE experts in the community come and join our teachers and our students for an annual dinner. And those CTE advisors are helping us stay on the cutting edge of the skills and the techniques that our students need to know. So whether our students are choosing to be college bound or whether they would prefer to go right into industry out of the high school, I feel like those partnerships that we're trying to strengthen each and every day are helping to mitigate maybe some of that concern that you expressed.
Let's step away from our conversation for a moment for me to tell you about the Journalistic Learning Initiative's innovative educational tools and services. If you're looking to make the best decision for your teaching staff and students about AI adoption, improving student engagement, strengthening writing skills, promoting social media mindfulness, or enhancing college and career readiness, please take a moment to visit our website at journalisticlearning.org. Our team of University of Oregon researchers offer customized AI tools, instructional materials, professional development, and consulting. Research confirms that students with journalistic learning experience outperform their peers on numerous key indicators for college and career readiness. At the heart of our work is empowering learners to become effective communicators. If you think about it, effective communication is critical in every human interaction, whether it's writing an essay for a grade or being interviewed to secure employment. Since 2015, JLI has benefited nearly 20,000 students and served schools in 15 states and the District of Columbia. I invite you to schedule an appointment to explore how JLI can improve your students' learning outcomes. Now back to our program.
Yeah, there definitely has been a shift, I would say, maybe in the last 4 or 5 years with all the emergence of CTE about students not thinking that college is the only direction that they should aim for. And I think there's also maybe some question about whether or not young people at such a young age are able to really kind of make decisions about what their future might be, and perhaps we may step 4 or 5 years into the future and look back and, and ask ourselves about this. Do you have thoughts about that, or?
Well, that's one of the benefits of what we have implemented here in Massachusetts with the exploratory program that the CTE students experience in grade 9. So it varies from school to school, but basically it's like each of the shops is a survey course. And so you might be in there for 2 weeks to 2 weeks to 3 weeks at a time, and you get to dipstick what it's like to possibly be an engineer, or what it's like to have a career in automotive technology or early childhood education. And so as those students matriculate into those 3-year programs for sophomore, junior, and senior year, it does give a lot of opportunity to reflect on whether or not this is really right for me. But also, as you said, we're seeing more and more students who are taking a gap year, so to speak, where they're taking some of the skills that they've learned at our high school and they're using them in industry to make good money, and then deciding what is the best fit for them, whether they should venture into the college or post-secondary training route, or stick with that job opportunity.
Mm-hmm. I'm pleased to share that the work that our nonprofit does in the CTE area has been adopted across the state of Oregon. We have a tool that's AI. When we'll talk about AI in a bit, but an AI powered tool that helps students. It's called SASSY, so it's short for Sasquatch, which is the legend of Bigfoot in our area here.
Right.
That helps kids not only explore prospective career pathways, but also helps them prepare their resumes and their cover letters and prepare for an interview, and then how to follow up and then stay motivated through the whole process and Education Week just wrote about it, and I'll send you some information about that. But I'm curious about AI and how you're thinking about AI in your district and on across. So whether it relates to concerns about cheating and also the potential of AI to potentially advance individualized instruction.
Well, I think AI is a tool that is here to stay, and so much like any other tool, I think we have a responsibility to learn as much about it ourselves as we possibly can, and then share the responsible use of that tool with our students. Our students at some point have to learn how to use cell phones. Many of them will learn how to drive a car. So, those are just some rudimentary examples of tools that we have to teach the responsible use of. And I know that as an administrator, I've started to utilize AI more and more in terms of, being able to, collect data. Obviously, you have to verify reliable sources and things like that. But I think those are things that we've had discussions with our district leadership team, our principals and our assistant principals about ways that as we continue to implement the Portrait of a Graduate in our district strategic plan, to be able to make our students future ready, to be able to make them appropriate collaborators and communicators, the use of AI or the appropriate use of AI is going to be a very important aspect of that.
Yes, understanding how to craft a prompt is going to be a differentiator between we talk about digital divides in the past, but if you have that skill, you're going to be more in demand from employers, but also you're just going to be more effective at whatever you're doing. It's sort of another extension of uh, of just just how we go about business as usual. I think going forward.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I like to ask folks in your role about just the general sort of narrative about public education. I think that it's fair to say we've kind of got a bit of a PR problem. I liken it to the problem that journalists have as well in terms of public perception about public education, and it's costing us really qualified and great teachers who are leaving, and we have shortages in many parts of the country, but also budgetarily in communities where there are voucher programs and things that are somewhat depleting the budget for schools. And
Yeah.
I'm just curious your thoughts about that and how it's a big question, but how do we sort of move the needle and have the public have a better understanding and appreciation for what you and the dedicated people that work for you do?
Yeah. I mean, thank you for that. It's one of our towns, Rehoboth, is the birthplace of public education. And so public education, fortunately, at least in Massachusetts, is still very strong and I think largely still very well received. We do have some private competitors and some charter competitors that certainly are dipping into our enrollments. And that has a trickle down effect for our budgetary figures. I think that also we have a responsibility to continue to let our legislators know that we are seeing significant impacts from inflation. The cost of transportation has gone through the roof. The services that we are obligated to provide to our students with special needs are rapidly increasing, but we're not seeing the budget commensurate increases with that. And I think in terms of being able to move the needle, we just need to continue to celebrate the great things that we're doing. I'm a big proponent of using social media to get the word out there. We do our weekly newsletters from our principals, and I do a monthly newsletter from the superintendent's office. But the traffic that we get with those, when we look at the analytics, is nowhere near as much as when we're put something out on Facebook or we're put something out on Instagram. And when we do that, we are opening ourselves up to those who want to comment negatively. But we also know that those are the same conversations that are taking place in the ball fields, the barbershops, and in the grocery stores. So that's not something that that we shy away from in terms of making sure that our community knows the great things that that our staff is doing in the classroom and that our students are accomplishing. For instance, you talked about AI and CTE. We got a $316,000 grant last year from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for 2 of our CTE programs, and we bought some really amazing virtual reality laptops where, our students now, if they're in automotive technology and we only have a 2014 Ford Fusion for them to work on, for example, now they can use these virtual reality laptops to be able to go in and diagnose the brakes on a Lamborghini or a Tesla, and so that's something that as we continue to implement these virtual reality computers, we're going to put that type of information out on social media so that families who are trying to make choices about where to send their students, they will consider public education a very strong option for them.
Mm-hmm. I often like to ask administrators whether there was a teacher in your past or two that really inspired you to do the work that you're doing now. Is there someone that comes to mind, or?
Yeah, I mean, you're touching my heart with that one, Ed. My mother and my father. My mother was a school nurse for many years. She actually went into school nursing from being a registered nurse after my father passed away at the age of 38, when I was only 14 years old from a heart condition. But my dad was a high school health teacher, football, basketball coach, athletic director for a community school in South Carolina in the late 60s and early 70s. That's when a lot of schools, the segregation in the schools was being broken down. And, I saw how, as a father and as a coach and as a teacher, my dad could have, such a tremendous impact on his students and his players. And I knew even before he passed away that I wanted to get into education. But then when he passed away, it was something that was foremost in my mind to follow in his footsteps. And I'm on year 37 of my career, and I'm hoping that both of them are smiling down on me from above.
Well, that's a wonderful place to stop our conversation. And thank you so much, Bill. How do people who are curious about your work and your district find you on the internet or on LinkedIn?
So you can find our district on drregional.org, or you can look us up on Facebook, the Dighton Rehoboth Regional School District. And I'm on LinkedIn, got a fairly unique first and last name, Bill Runey. So anybody that's interested in any of our work on our district strategic plan or our Portrait of a Graduate, I've got some resources out there on LinkedIn as well.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
All right, Ed, thank you.
The Ed Leader's Edge podcast is produced by the Journalistic Learning Initiative. Please check out our latest books, Language Arts in Action from W.W. Norton Publishing, and Raising Empowered Learners from Rauman and Littlefield. For more information about our work, please visit journalisticlearning.org or edleaderedge.org. Thanks for listening.